Hello, hello.
Hello.
Hi, how's it going?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you okay. Can you hear me?
I can't hear anything.
Can you not? Hi, can you hear me now?
What about
Hey,
now?
can you hear me now? I can hear you.
Um, are these any better? Hello?
Can you hear me?
Oh, I can hear you. Okay, I don't know what's happening with my computer audio, but I've connected AirPods and they seem to be picking up sound.
Right, okay.
It's been working all morning, so I don't know.
Right. Yeah, mine's been working my side as well, so not quite sure what happened there.
Never mind, don't worry. We'll AirPods it is.
Okay, so now, so I get this. So Natalia Ramsden is the founder and managing director of Sophos Associates. Is that correct?
Correct. That is correct.
London's first brain optimization clinic. Sophos Associates works with senior executives and entrepreneurs and high net worth individuals to enhance cognitive performance through the application of cutting edge developments in neuroscience, nootropics, yeah, functional medicine, and psychology. Okay.
Sure.
Let me see if there's any other things that will. Natalia is an expert in cognitive performance after starting her career in clinical services. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. Are there any other words?
And you might not want it. If you don't want it all, that's fine. I just sent because I'm not sure how detailed you needed.
Yeah, so what I can do is start off with it and make sure I do not stumble across my words, and then we might do some editing post production. But
Sure.
sorry, in the production side of things. So we'll see how that goes. Yeah.
And we're not. I know we're recording, but we're not. It's not a video, is it? I can sort of put my hair up in a messy bun.
No, it's not a video. The only thing sometimes I think is it'd be really nice to almost like have a little clip, an extract, but
You want a
otherwise,
little clip, all right? So I'll leave myself. I feel like I'm sort of hormonally kind of, pregnancy heat.
yeah. not a, we don't have to. I can do some extracts of different, I like to keep it as simple and as easy as possible. So let's have a look. Right.
I suddenly felt quite nervous as I was dialing, and I was sort of fine, and then all of a sudden I thought, oh gosh.
Mm.
So let's see how we get on.
Do you know what? If we fumble through anything, then we can restart, kind of redo a question and kickstart again. We can just make it work for us. Yeah.
Sure.
And everything can be picked up in the editing process. It's not a problem. And we'll make sure we get the version across to you. So,
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
I think if it's all right, I'd rather not use a video, and I can send you a headshot that you can use. I've sort of kind of up in a, our study is under construction, so you can also see the lighting is a bit off.
Yeah.
So if that's all right.
Of course, absolutely. Okay.
All right, whenever you're ready, I'll follow cue.
Right, and let's see where it goes. And if you find that there's a question you want me to come back to and answer or ask you through this process, just let me know. We could do that too. Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. So hi everyone. I have the privilege of welcoming Natalia Ramsden today. Natalia is the founder and managing director of Sophos Associates, London's first brain optimization clinic. Sophos Associates works with senior executives, entrepreneurs, and high net worth individuals to enhance cognitive performance through the application of cutting-edge developments in neuroscience, nootropics, functional medicine, and psychology. She is an expert in cognitive performance after starting her career in clinical services. Natalia moved into people and talent consulting, specializing in leadership assessment, development, and succession at board level. Natalia has a Bachelor of Psychology and a Bachelor of Arts from the University of Newcastle, Australia, a Master's in Occupational Psychology from the University of London, and an MBA from the University of Cambridge. She is a pioneer in the try this one again. She is a pioneer in the area of neuroenhancement and its application for future development, and speaks at a range of events about boosting brain power and why she believes this is where the future of self-development and cognitive maximization lies. She is a member of the British Psychological Society, the International Society for Neurofeedback Research, the British Neuroscience Association, and the Federation of European Neuroscience Societies. Wow. First of all, what a mouthful. And secondly, it's such a pleasure to have you here today, Natalia. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. That was a very kind introduction.
Yeah, really. And I'm really excited to hear more about this, about the physiology and the science that sits behind leadership and growth. So, but first of all, talk to us a little bit about your role today and the most important aspects, and also what led you to setting up Sophos Associates.
Of course. So as you sort of very briefly mentioned, I started my career in clinical services, and then very quickly moved into the corporate space. And a huge part of what I was doing and what organizational psychologists were doing at that time and still was looking at leadership potential. So looking at executives, how they performed within an organization, their ability to deliver on company strategies. And as part of that, we would measure intelligence. We know that it's a huge contributor, or tells us a great deal about how successful an individual will be. And so we measured that and we factored that into our judgments. But I guess, sadly, I suppose, we would just leave it to the side. At that point, and this is many years ago, we would sort of tell executives, essentially, when it comes to intelligence, you've sort of got what you've given, and we would just kind of leave that to the side, and all the development was focused on behavior acquisition, skill acquisition, competency based, those sorts of things. And I suppose the real kind of milestone is that that changed. As a scientific community, we suddenly started to understand in more depth that the brain wasn't static, that there were things that we could do to change the brain, to enhance performance. A lot was happening in the area of sort of looking at cognitive decline, Alzheimer's, dementia, and then again the tech world as well had sort of come a long way. So all of a sudden we could take a very different approach, and it was at that crossroad, I suppose, I really became obsessed with this idea of enhancement, and actually, what can we take from the scientific community, and what can we take from all this sort of learning, and work with a healthy, high functioning population to help them get the best out of their brains, to enhance their performance, to really optimize how their brain as an organ was working.
Yeah, and that's really good to hear from a personal perspective as well, that there's hope for me yet. So
Absolutely,
I can continue to
absolutely.
develop and grow. And for many people out there that concern themselves with, how static is our learning curve, how, is there an opportunity to create new connections, new learnings, new possibilities that
Yeah.
enhance our ability to change, adapt, and perform. And evolve. So I'm really pleased to hear this.
Look,
It's great.
yeah, and I think it's a hugely empowering thing. And obviously that's biased, that's my opinion, but I think it's hugely empowering to know that I have control over my brain, over its
Mm,
structure, over its development. There are things that I can do to positively influence that, and of course, negatively influence. But it is within my hands. And that goes on to health as a wider piece and longevity. But my focus is really on cognitive performance and what we can do there.
yeah. So talk to us a little bit about, because this is a really important area, cognitive performance, especially as we look around the world and there's so much cognitive pressure, cognitive overload. It's a really, really challenging time. And particularly I see this working with leaders and organizations, is how do you perform at your optimum and your most inspiring when there's so much pressure around. But talk to me a little bit about who your clients are. And why do they come to see you?
Sure, sure. So, I mean, we've got an interesting sort of mix of clients, and we run, we sort of set up a clinic and a sort of team of professionals, and
Mm,
it's a very personalized service. So for that, that means for us that we can work with, hugely different clients. It's not a sort of off the shelf approach where people have got to fit a mold. But the truth is, they tend to be, I would say, pretty intelligent already, high functioning, very driven individuals, whether they're executives in a corporate setting, in startup entrepreneurs, whatever industry they come from, it doesn't really matter. But they tend to be those sorts of individuals who want more. They want the edge. They want to know what the latest developments are. They want to better themselves to realize as much of their potential as possible. And then I think the other piece is, if I'm brutally honest, they've probably also started to notice some of the effects of kind of life, age, work. Maybe memory is not quite what it used to be. Maybe sort of stamina is not quite what it used to be. And they're sort of alert to that. So they sort of realize that actually, if I can stay focused for more of the day, I can produce more. When we're sort of 22 and kind of overly confident and have sort of bags and bags of energy, we probably focus on that sort of stuff less. So there probably is an element of starting to feel the kind of natural effects of the aging process.
yeah. I think, as you listed out those natural effects of the aging process, I was going, tick, yes,
Yep.
tick, yes. You just missed perimenopausal from that list. But joy of joys. So welcome to the aging process. And so talk to me a little bit more about the journey that people go through with you, because and this question of what is intelligence? What do we mean by intelligence? And this talk of actually multiple intelligence as well, that there's just not one narrow view, but it's broader than that. So based on your research and your understanding, can you just explore that with us a little bit more, and actually therefore the journey that you take people through?
Of course, of course. So, sort of largely speaking, and I say the sort of scientific community, let's say sort of psychologists within that, um, have kind of really narrowed down to three main types of intelligence. They're the sort of categories, if you will. So we've got crystallized intelligence, and that's the stuff you've learned, the sort of general knowledge, the stuff you've learned at university. The kind of facts. I don't know, sort of Athens is the capital of Greece, and so on. That's the acquisition. You've got emotional intelligence, which has certainly become, a focus more and more in recent years. So this is your ability to understand your own emotions and the emotions of others. And then you have fluid intelligence, and this is our core focus area. And this is your brain's natural processing, if you will. So it isn't biased by education, what you've learned, all those sorts of things. It's really looking, if you think about it as I'm not a techie, but if you think about it as a computer, we're thinking about literally the kind of raw processing, speed, accuracy, how fast and how able your brain is to process information in the world around it. And that for us is what we're focused on.
Mm.
We're focused on individuals, essentially how fast they can process information and how accurately they can do that. And our key focus is all around essentially making that process more efficient. So we have what I think is a very interesting approach, and one that's been in development for a while. We work with clients one-on-one. It's a very personalized setup, and we work with them over the course of 12 months. And so that 12-month period again has been designed specifically because of the changes that we're looking to make. So we talked about sort of the brain changing, sort of messaging, synapses, cell growth, all that kind of thing. But we start off with a very, very detailed test phase. So we're able to really look at anything that would impact their brain, how it's performing. And then we curate and design a very specialized program and manage that and work with them over the course of 12 months. And so that can include anything from probably some quite simple stuff that you can find on Google. So, sort of sleep hygiene and some diet tips, all the way through to some really cutting edge applications. So different brainwave training application, different kind of nootropics that people can take to give their brain a boost, different sort of the one that's very popular at the moment is a sort of oxygen therapy where you kind of inhale a pure oxygen. So it's really a very broad spectrum, and that is customized based on that individual and their results and what they need, but also what their preferences are.
Yeah. So talk to me a little bit about the results, because, as you pull the levers and all of these different things that really help somebody at an individual level to perform at their optimum. What have you noticed about what drives successful results? What are the mechanisms that people can embrace that really work? What can we learn from the research that you've done, the work that you've specifically done with people, and the outcomes that they're achieving as a result?
So I think people know already that there's a link between, how well they keep their lifestyles, how healthy they are, and their performance. I think the work we do really highlights that and emphasizes that to a greater degree. And it probably becomes quite addictive. I think once that brain fog lifts and you get to 6 p.m. and you think, oh wow, I'm still clear headed and I've got so much energy. That's quite an addictive and enticing place to be in. The individuals that we work with balance very complex lives. They've got very demanding roles, but they also want to be with their families. They also want to pursue hobbies. So I think finding ways to get more out of life is something that is very valuable to them.
Mm.
Um, and it's interesting, the results, because I think when people start with us, they and rightly so, they want very quantitative analysis, sort of how many IQ points or how much did I increase on a memory test. And that's fair enough. And we collect that data, we have them available to each individual client. But interestingly, what happens after about sort of 6 weeks, they actually just don't care about those metrics, and it's all of a sudden how they feel, because they feel differently. They feel like they've got more energy, they've got more stamina, they're clearer, they're taking decisions that perhaps they had deliberated on before. So it's an interesting piece around what people want initially when they don't quite know what it's going to feel like, and then actually once they sort of start to feel the effects of sort of that optimization.
Yeah. It's a little bit like dieting, really. I want to lose a stone in the space of kind of a week, but actually it's not about that, is it? It really is about the experience of feeling healthy and not a target that you're kind of working towards based on, standards that maybe are out there. They're not even something that you need to focus on yourself. That in itself is a little bit unhealthy. Um, what do you notice that as people come to you, that you've got the areas that really work. So if you were to say the few key things, if people would just start to invest time in these things, that could be really powerful based on what you've noticed. But also, as they come to you, what are the biggest derailing factors that you've noticed along the way that they know what they need to achieve that will enhance their performance, but they just there's these few areas that we could do more to help ourselves around.
Sure, I'm sure. And this is a hard one, because you think, how much do I tell people that they can do this without me? That's the sort of business dilemma. No, look, I mean, you know, in in all openness, I think there are things that people can absolutely do, and that research and information is available to anyone who wants it. So, sleep, for example, is probably single-handedly the biggest game changer.
Right.
Getting not only enough sleep, but good quality sleep will literally change your life. Every aspect of your health, aging, the brain, performance, stress, diet, weight, all of it. I mean, I think sleep is really there. Um, and it's a hard one behaviorally to talk to people, because it sounds so simple. It's free, you can do it. It's available to everyone. But for whatever reasons, people don't, and so there's a big kind of behavioral change element there. But again, once you're in a good sleep habit, then people start to feel, like exercise, you start to feel how good it is, and it becomes a non-negotiable. So there are really simple strategies that people can do that will make a huge difference. Sleep will make a huge difference. Hydrating, sort of, drinking your kind of 2 liters of water a day, again, free, accessible, will make a huge difference. I suppose what we bring is the expertise and the tailoring, but also a very customized service. So people will, after a sort of a week or 2 weeks, and you'll know from kind of the work that you've done in leadership that some of those behaviors might start to slip away. So we work with them to make sure that they're being done in a sort of productive way that's right for that individual. And we also do a lot in terms of capitalizing on the innovations. So things like various types of biofeedback, neurofeedback, which were originally designed to treat things like ADD or ADHD, have had very positive results in the cognitive enhancement space. And we work with a very good neuropsychologist that we have on staff. And so it's about balancing some of those very simple techniques, but also bringing, the latest cutting edge development, and being able to bring that sort of intel, or that sort of knowledge to clients firsthand.
Yeah. And you're absolutely right. There is something, we see this all the time. They know the tools quite often, maybe not always the context and the why, but they certainly have access to the tools. But it is about that behavioral shift, that decision to change, and the way to navigate through that successfully, and acknowledge and appreciate the results along the way. And I can just see how that blended approach of how you take somebody through the journey that's very specific to them is a very powerful transformation piece that gets people feeling better, not just performing better.
Of course.
Really importantly. So really great. And what's the proudest moment in the work that you do? What do you love?
Um, I mean, this is probably what anyone in this space says, but seeing what happens to clients afterward is remarkable. We run a very boutique setup, so we work with a small handful of clients at any given time,
Mm,
and become quite close to them in that time. I mean, you can imagine we're taking all sorts of tests and we're sort of brain scans and whatever it is. So seeing the sort of output of that and the results is a hugely gratifying and also a very emotional experience. We got an email from a client, a past client earlier in actually at the beginning of lockdown, and her sort of reflecting on her experience with us and how life changing it had been. She'd sort of spun off, she'd sort of started her own business, she was completely booked out, she was doing so well, and it sounds really simple, and I think anyone in a healthcare practice probably has the same feedback. But that was sort of goosebumps to me. I mean,
yeah.
that made every scientific paper that I've read and highlighted, and every moment of what am I doing in frustration, every hard moment in sort of setting up a very new business, that made it all very, very worthwhile.
Yeah, lovely. And I think it's seeing the output, the outcomes of that invested time, and the impact that that has on somebody's life is just, it's really inspiring. I'm sure for you in terms of your journey, but just a reinforcement of the types of things that you're doing, the work that you're doing, and how important, how vital this is, and particularly in today's world and economy. So, um, if you were to just think about your own life and
Mhm.
your own leadership journey. Knowing what you know now, if you were to reflect back, what are the things that you would be saying to yourself along the way? And
What would I say along the way? Gosh, I mean, some days I feel like I've lived several lives sort of cramped into one. Um, I would tell myself, I would tell myself not to worry so much. I know that sounds really strange, but um, I think this sort of things have a kind of way of working out. If I look at myself sort of through my early university degrees and sort of early career, I think there was this sort of over eagerness to kind of try and push things along, and maybe speed up, or maybe sort of kind of this sort of overdrive. And I think what a little bit of age has taught me is that of course, that drive is still there, but to kind of let it happen a little bit, and it sort of finds its way. I'm a lot more productive and efficient than I have ever been in all my working career. And in all honesty, I can say that I probably work less hours than what I've ever have. So I think there's something about letting the kind of natural, particularly sort of thinking and cognitive process, letting that kind of natural bit come to, and sort of letting it happen.
lovely. And talk to me a little bit more. Who's inspired you along your journey?
Oh gosh, who's inspired me? I mean, there's just I think we've got some phenomenal role models to look at. I think the sort of, and this is I guess the science in me. um the sort of Watson and Crick, and sort of the sort of early starts of the work around kind of DNA was huge. That's massive in the industry that I work with. So sort of starting to understand that sort of coding of humans. Um, I have an incredible mother who I look at, and I just think, I don't know where you find your strength. I don't know where you find your energy. So I'm very lucky to have been raised and have exposure to very strong sort of female role models. And I have a very successful and entrepreneurial husband, I think is also a huge source of inspiration. So both in support when I told him that I had this sort of slightly crazy idea and this is what I was off to do, and every day throughout that, little things like in the very basic early days of what accounting system to use, to much sort of broader strategy and leadership inspiration. But also I have a lot of support at home, and a very sort of balanced sort of, kind of home lifestyle. So I think that that's a huge inspiration to have that, and see that in a father and a husband.
Lovely. Very, very nice. It's funny how much, so much of our inspiration comes maybe not so far out there, in the world around us, but actually is so deep within our home and our communities.
Yeah,
Really
I felt like
taps
I
into
should.
our own potential, hey?
I felt like I should have some, some sort of figure up on a pedestal. But I think you're right. I think those people that have enabled me to sort of do what I do are hugely inspiring. So.
Lovely, lovely. And as you project forward and you think about the future and your vision for the work that you do and the impact that it can create, and I suppose the legacy, that you might want to leave in the future, what's your thoughts about where you want to take this, how you want to be in service of the world?
So I think for me, it's two bits. I think we've created something that particularly in the UK is new. That there is no other sort of brain optimization clinic as it stands today. Um, so I think for us, the first bit is around a kind of education. So I want, and I feel very passionately that people should know that this is something available to them. And I don't mean necessarily me or my clinic. I just mean in general, this is something that people can do. They have the ability. I talked earlier about empowerment, but this is something that people can do, that they have access to.
Hmm.
And that's a huge piece for them. In the same way that we know that we can sort of impact our health or our weight, I'd be very happy and passionate that people can do that. And then I guess the sort of the more personal or closer to home is that we can do that actually we can work with clients and we can bring them the latest advances, that we can work with them to achieve whatever it is that they're trying to achieve in their life. And
Hmm.
it feels quite privileged to be an enabler in that way.
Lovely, lovely. And if you were to reflect back over, possibly even this business startup, but even more broadly around, the mistakes or the areas where you just kind of you you've had your ass to the grass. So what, and I'm not talking about weightlifting here. So how have you learned? What have you learned? What were those mistakes that others could learn from with you?
I My greatest learning in running a business and as a professional has certainly been in the last year or so. I have a little boy who's almost 2, and I'm 7 months pregnant. And I think my learning this year has been certainly that you can do it all, but not at the same time. And that was, I know, again, it sounds very simple, but that was that was a big learning. I think there were a lot of kind of moments where I sort of really struggled, and I think that was a real learning for me, that actually there's an element of design to life, and just sort of working out that you can do it, but you need to be patient with some things, and there's sort of time for other things. So I think that's probably it. And whether it's balancing children or businesses or whatever it is, that you can do whatever it is that you set out to do, but um, life has trade-offs, and you may not be able to do it all at the same time as well as you liked. And so there's a strategy in choosing those things.
Yeah. And what are the things that you do to create the boundaries that are needed? The focus. Where do you get your energy from? What are the techniques, tactics, tools that you regularly deploy? I suppose as a rhythm,
Mhm.
for the way that you try to be successful.
Sure. I'm very religious about sleep. It's if I'm not out having sort of the time of my life, then I'm in bed and sleeping, and and I protect those sort of hours of slumber very, very carefully. I'm a huge intermittent faster. That works very well for, I mean, not while I'm pregnant, but that works very well for me personally, and so I sort of continue that. And I mean, I'll be honest with you, our house sort of feels like my husband and I are sort of guinea pigs to a series of different kind of applications that come through, whether it's sort of trying different nootropics or different this year actually I've used quite a lot the Muse headband, which is a sort of facilitates meditation. So I mean, we're constantly trialing different wearable tech or different approaches. So there's lots of sort of experiments going on here. But definitely I think sleep, intermittent fasting, and are probably huge ones for me.
Lovely, lovely. And so, if you were to leave the session today with the best top tip or the words of wisdom to help inspire others on their journey, what would be your big message?
It it would be a call to action. I would implore people to really think about what they want from life, what they're trying to achieve, and really push them to explore ways that they can do that. We are so lucky at this point to have the developments that we do. I mean, if you think about our ancestors or sort of much more recent people, died of influenza. I mean, we're moving towards personalized healthcare, and it's phenomenal what is happening. So actually, there's a there's access for people to really create the life that they want, to enhance themselves, to do whatever it is that they want to do. And I think that for me is a truly remarkable place to be in.
Lovely, very nice. Natalia, it's been such a pleasure speaking with you today. And I think are really fascinating areas. We understand more about the human kind of the neuroscience and the physiology and what we can do to look after ourselves in the most healthiest way, partly to optimize performance, but also partly just to feel good, to be at our very best in the world, and to get as much joy as possible. So to show up at our finest. I think this is just such a fascinating area. I'd love to explore more with you along the way. But is there anything else that you want to share before we go today?
No, just to extend my sort of gratitude for having me, and a huge thank you. It's been a pleasure, and I welcome the opportunity to kind of talk to people about something I think is very exciting and I feel very passionate about.
Okay. And on that, where do people go to find out more about the work that you do and to hear more, to learn more from you?
Of course. So, like everyone, we've got a web page up. So that's sophosassociates.com. Or you can find me on LinkedIn, Instagram. LinkedIn seems to be a good platform for us. So, we're often sort of sharing research and, interesting bits and pieces. And then, of course, feel free to reach out to me directly. I'm more than happy to have a conversation or answer any questions.
Lovely. Natalia, thank you so much for your time today. I've no doubt you've inspired many people to take action, take control, and to really start working on themselves to perform at their optimum. Really appreciate your time today. Good luck with all that you do with Sophos Associates, and looking forward to hearing more from you in the future.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Take care. Was there anything else before I stop the recording that you want me to ask to be integrated as part of that?
No, I think that was good. That was nice. It was a nice chat. That was comfortable.
Good, good, good. I'm so pleased. So let me just stop the recording.